This case is still ongoing over in Japan, as such there can be some details that we might miss in the video, or there can be new details that may come forth in future. The detectives are still actively working on the case, so this video is to convey everything that we know till now about the murder of Miyazawa family. Miyazawa family were a happy and for the most part your typical ordinary Japanese family. Miyazawa Mikio, 44 years old, the patriarch of the family, worked at a London-based marketing firm called Interbrand. It is unclear what type of work exactly Mikio did, but it is worth noting that Interbrand is actually a very big firm. They have worked with Microsoft, Xerox, and many others. Their biggest notable achievement is that they were responsible for branding the term Wi-Fi. The colleagues back at Mikio's workplace described him as an amiable guy, who was not the kind of person to make enemy of others. He was a married man with 2 children. His wife Miyazawa Yasuko, 41 years old, was seen as very kind and compassionate type of person by everyone. She was a teacher by profession and often tutored kids outside of school, but she loved to spend a lot of time with her own kids, 8-year-old daughter Nina and 6-year-old son Ray. Nina was a very bright child who was in 2nd grade, and she loved soccer and ballet, taking active part in both activities. Unlike their daughter, their son, Ray, faced an issue. He had a speech impairment which was mainly the source of family stress. Ray was undergoing professional help regarding this impairment. Miyazawa family moved to their home in the Kamisoshigeya neighborhood of Setagaya, Tokyo in 1991. At the time, the neighborhood was bustling with hundreds of residential buildings. The Miyazawa house was neighboring a part of park where little children played and called it Choo-Choo Train Park. Tokyo had plans to expand Sashigaya Park, as such many of Miyazawa's neighborhood sold their land to the city. By the year 2000, they lost all their neighbors except 4 houses, one of which belonged to Yasuko's sister, An. Although their house was mostly occupied by Yasuko and An's mother because An and her son lived in England, as An's husband often worked overseas. Yasuko also used this house to tutor other children. The 2 houses were very close, so close that they can be mistaken for one. This close proximity worried Mikio, thinking this could lead to family troubles in future. And then Mikio decided to soundproof both houses. As a result, both families eventually decided to move away in December 2000 as well, just like their neighbors. They already sold their land to the city, but Yasuko was worried that Ray might face trouble adjusting to a new place with his speech impairment. In the end, the family never ended up moving, as one night changed everything. The week before the New Year's Eve brought many unusual experiences for the family. The community started to notice the animals of the area physically tormented. Rodents were found in the streets, dead, and cats, including both domestic and strays, tortured. One of the eyewitnesses recalls that the cat they frequently fed and were friendly with, appeared one day without its tail. Due to the language barrier, any further information regarding these animal cases is difficult to get. On the night of Christmas, Yasuko tells her father-in-law about the suspicious car being parked in front of their house despite the fact there was a parking lot nearby. This was not the first time and reportedly has happened on many occasions. For days after the Christmas, a man is spotted just a few miles away from Miyazawa household. The odd thing about this man was that he was severely underdressed for the weather. Well, it may not be that big of a thing, but in retrospect is somewhat suspicious. On that same day, according to the police investigations, a man matching the description purchased a sashimi knife from the same shopping area. Then again on the next day, man with same description was spotted again, roughly 1 mile away from Miyazawa's. As it appeared, this man was only getting closer and closer to Miyazawa house. The night of the same day ended up to being the last night for entire family. It was December 30th, with festive cheer in the air as New Year was approaching. It was business as usual for all the family members. At around 6 p.m. an eyewitness saw the family go for shopping, although we cannot be sure whether it was all 4 members or someone stayed behind at home. An eyewitness driving by the family's home saw their car missing at around 6:30 p.m., which makes the previous statement relevant. At around 7 p.m., Yasuko calls her mother. They often used phones to communicate with each other. The conversation between them was most likely something mundane, likely asking if she and Nina could come over, supported by the fact that Nina went to her grandmother's house to watch a pre-recorded television program until around 9:30 p.m. Up till this time, everything was normal. Last recorded activity from the family is Mikio reading a work-related email which was password protected, which means Mikio himself opened it. It was the last moment where at least one member of the family was confirmed to be still alive. Before the horrors inside the house would be discovered, a witness walking in the park behind the Miyazawa house heard what sounded like an argument, likely the couple getting heated over one another. Half an hour after that, Miyazawa's next door, that is Yasuko's mother, would hear a loud bang which came from Miyazawa's side of the house. This was the same time when a neighbor saw a man hurrying along the path that was next to the family's house. These were all the signs that something went wrong inside the house, but they'd be discovered after literal hours. The next morning was New Year's Eve, and as such Yasuko's mother called her daughter's family to make plans for later that afternoon. The call would not go through. She traveled outside to go inside her daughter's house. She rang the doorbell, to which there was no response. She went back and got her spare keys to the house to get in. When she entered, the house was ominously silent. She knew something was terribly wrong. It was around 10:40 in the morning when she stumbled across lifeless bodies of Mikio and her daughter Yasuko. Before calling the police, she tries to find her grandchildren, having hope that they might be still alive, but Nina's body was along with Yasuko's and Rei's body was still in his bed. Needless to say, she calls the police. The Tokyo Metropolitan Police quickly responded. As police started their investigation to piece together what exactly went down in the house, Yasuko's mother tells them about that loud bang noise, apart from which nothing else was out of the ordinary. The Tokyo police concluded that the family was murdered on December 30th, sometime near 11:30 p.m. to 12:05 a.m. of next day. The killer entered through an open window in the second-floor bathroom located immediate adjacent to Sashigaya Park. It is believed the killer climbed a tree in the park to reach this window. Upon entering the house, he went to Rei's room and strangled him to death with his bare hands. He was first one to die. Rei was sleeping at the time, and upon hearing commotion coming from his room, Mikio went upstairs to check on his son. There he confronts the intruder, fighting and injuring him until the man pulls out a sashimi knife and stabs Mikio in the neck multiple times, ending his life. This sashimi knife was apparently purchased just one night before and matched the statements made by a witness previously shown in the video. In process of attacking Mikio, the knife broke. Killer then took a knife from the house's kitchen and attacked Yasuko and Nina, ending their life in same fashion. Nina was last member of the family to die. One thing that was found to be little odd is that Mikio's body was found wearing business-related attire in middle of the night. According to some untrusty sources, he was also wearing only one shoe, although it's an information to be taken in with a grain of salt. The stab wounds were too aggressive, which suggested killer kept stabbing the women of the family even after they died. This implicated that either he was a women hater or simply held that much aggression against them. Despite that, the police could never draw any solid conclusion behind the motive of the murders. It could be someone with deep grudge against the family, but it's just speculation. As it appears right now, one man with mysterious origins just decided to murder a family simply out of nowhere. Rei was the only one with no stab wounds on his body. It's also in his bedroom that the forensics found most footprints. Nina had some tooth missing as well, which suggested she was not only stabbed but beaten as well. You'd think that if this case hasn't been solved for 24 years, it's probably due to less or no evidence at all. Much to yours and police's surprise, the crime scene was full of evidence. First and foremost, the murder weapon, both the sashimi knife and Miyazawa's kitchen knife, was found in kitchen itself by the police, still covered in blood. The reason the crime scene was full of evidence was actually because the killer, after murdering the entire family, remained inside the house for several hours. He took out ice cream out of the fridge and ate it without using a spoon. He also drank barley tea, but left cola and beer in the fridge. He also got himself patched up with some bandages taken from Miyazawa's first aid. He also went through family's documents and used their toilet, leaving unflushed feces. Either the killer was just too arrogant and believed he'd never be caught, or in complete ignorance of DNA testing. After 24 years, I guess first option is very much feasible. In the same toilet he also threw Yasuko's 2 handbags, Mikio's wallet and the house keys. Upon the investigation of the left-behind feces, investigators determined that the perpetrator must have eaten sesame spinach dish with string beans prior to murder, likely someplace else. Footprints left behind in blood and dirt belonged to a specific type of Schlesinger shoe. These were very common in Japan, but the particular size of shoe to which these footprints belonged are not found in Japan. This shoe size is found in South Korea. Upon the discovery of this fact, it led to many theories over the years about the ethnicity of the killer. Trace amount of sand was also found on the scene, which after analysis turned out to come from Nevada desert, more specifically the area of Edwards Air Force Base in California, and a skate park in Japan. Well, I guess the perpetrator was not Japanese after all. But even if he came from overseas, some sort of fingerprint or anything else should have been taken at the customs before he could enter the country, but the DNA and fingerprints collected by police at the scene matched no existing records. Another strange thing here is the killer left behind several articles of clothing, as if intentional or just did not care about leaving them. The clothing articles found closely resembled outfit a skater would wear. It included a long-sleeved t-shirt, pair of gloves, a handkerchief, muffler, and a hip bag. Forensic analysts determined that all of the clothing have been washed in hard water, that is water containing many minerals and vitamins, which is not common occurring water in Japan. Japan uses soft water system, with only sodium present in water. Hard water system is used in Korea, hence further indicating that the killer might really be someone from Korean heritage. To ultimately find out the killer's race, his blood was also analyzed, which was found at the scene. The male killer was possibly be of mixed race, with maternal DNA suggesting a mother from Europe and paternal DNA suggesting father from East Asia. An analysis of Mikio's computer at his home was also done, which revealed that it had been connected to internet in the morning at 1:18 a.m., during which the killer created a new folder and visited a theater's website which was already bookmarked by Mikio. The computer connected to internet again at 10 a.m., but this may just be an accident, possibly triggered by Yasuko's mother moving the mouse when she found the bodies. Roughly 6 hours after the discovery of murders in the afternoon, a young man was admitted in medical care in Tobu Nikko Station. This man was admitted without giving his name. The injury was a hand injury, so severe it exposed the bone. Staff were surprised by how nonchalant the man was with that type of wound, which made him rather suspicious. That is why the staff remembered him. This man absolutely refused to give any details about himself. Then on April 9, 2001, a Buddhist statue was placed at the Sengawa River, which was less than a mile away from the Miyazawa house. Police bought this statue in as evidence because it was placed after exactly 100 days of the murder, believed to have been placed by killer himself out of remorse or guilt. This statue is said to protect children in afterlife from demons. In December of 2015, a famous true crime author, Fumiya Ichihashi, published a book written in Japanese titled The Setagaya Family Murder Case. In his book, Fumiya details that the suspect was a former South Korean military man. In reality, Police also asked South Korea's assistance in finding this killer, but their government refused. Police also seeks assistance of the Interpol, that is international police, as the killer is most likely not in Japan anymore. Till now over 250,000 Japanese officers have been involved in investigation of this case. Still the suspect is at large. Evidence collected is over 12,000 pieces as well. In 2019, Tokyo police announced Miyazawa house to be torn down with support from family members as it was in a state of collapse with already deteriorating inside. This would not impact the investigation as they have already collected all possible evidence from the house. Prior to this, Tokyo Metropolitan Police would go to the house every year to pay their respects. On December 21, 2021, a reward for 20 million Japanese yen was also announced for information that could possibly lead to arrest of the culprit. On December 9, 2023, Tokyo police conducted a campaign by distributing flyers and other related materials, appealing for any information from the public and keeping the memories of Miyazawa family alive. The investigation remains unresolved, but only time will tell who the culprit really was behind ending an entire family just before the new year. Personally, I believe this case may be solved in future. After all the evidence is present. Improved technology of the future and the killer himself making any mistakes will one day make the truth come to light.